I will call the PRT Commission meeting to order today, February 27th, 2025. You have in front of you agenda, and I'll start. We've got 3 new commission members. Kelly, you weren't able to be here last week, so I'm going to ask us to do again this week what we did last week, just so you can kind of hear how everybody's connected and they can do as well. So Kevin, I'll start with you on your side again, and we'll come down and use kind of how you're connected through PRT.
Yeah, sure. I'm Kevin Cope, owner of Cope and Company Real Estate, and we're in here in capacity to contribute through lodging. We manage some vacation rentals.
My name is Alex Butterwell. I own Kiwi Brewing Company.
Kelly Thomason, and I'm here as a member at large, represent the community, and work for an executive search firm.
Riley Johnson, I'm the events coordinator for the city of Seneca.
Noah Baker, at large, and I'm semi-retired from real estate and construction.
Trey Barnett, lodging through Wildwater Rafting, and then my wife and I own Humble Pie Pizza and a coffee shop in Long Creek as well.
I'm Tony Adams. I'm the old retired guy of the group, I reckon.
All right, thank you all. Appreciate your willingness to serve. We will start today with the minutes from February 20th, 2025. You have those in front of you as well as emailed to you. I'll give you a second. Take a look at those, and then when someone's ready, we'll take a motion to approve those. There's no edits or changes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion, have a second. Any other discussion? Being none, all in favor? Vote is unanimous. Very good. All right, so we move to election of officers. Typically, this is done every other year, but with the turnover this year, we need to elect a new chair and a new vice chair. We will take nominations for those seats, and we'll vote on them in the order that they're nominated. Those of you that have been on the commission, you kind of know that I usually, as a staffer, provide most of the information and the work. The chair just kind of keeps the flow of the meeting going. Vice chair would do the same thing in the absence of the chair. In the event that we ever need to make a presentation to county council, I would look to that chairperson kind of to be side by side with staff in terms of making that presentation and or answering questions directly from council that, you know, if there was something that come from the PRT commission. That has not happened in my time here. That's not to say that it may not, but just to make sure that everybody's fully aware of those functions and responsibilities. I'll open up the floor for any nominations for chair of PRT Commission.
I will nominate Alex.
I'm fine
I'll
with that.
second that.
Yep, second.
Alex, is that something you're going to do?
I'm okay with that, yes.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? All right, hearing none. No other discussion? Okay, then ask for a vote for Alex Butterball as chair. All in favor? And vote is unanimous.
Myself.
Congratulations.
Yay!
And then you will get the luxury of sitting in the middle from now on. So,
Would you like me to make the switch
since
now?
we're not going to use this, I'll set it back over here anyway.
Would you like me to make the switch?
You can if you like. It'd be great. And if you would like for me to do the vice chair, I will, or if you'd like to take it and run with it.
You can continue.
Okay. So, in the absence, in the time that, anytime the chair is not able to be here,
Take your name, please.
Got it.
in the event that Alex cannot make a meeting, then we will look to the vice chair to do the similar role. And I'll open up the floor now for nominations for a vice chair.
I will nominate Riley.
I'll second that.
Riley, you okay with that?
I'm good with it.
Any other nominations from the floor? Hearing none, vote for Riley Johnson as the vice chair. All in favor? Vote is unanimous. Very good. All right.
You're on the right hand man. You don't even have to move.
Right here, right here where you.
Mr. Chair, if you'd like me to take and run with this, I will. And then you can start fresh with the next one if you'd like.
Yes,
Or
sir.
you can take it and run with it.
Sounds great. You may
All right.
continue.
So, we do not vote on the secretary because you've handled it previously. So, in front of you, we have a treasurer's report. And those that have seen this over the years, I will put the most up-to-date number that I have from either the month we're in or the previous month. I'll show you all the encumbrances that are out there. Those are things that either you or county council has approved, but we haven't gotten them completed internally, so they're showing as encumbered numbers. So you see a total available balance of 1.1 on the local ATAX side, and you can see the breakdown of that on your sheet. On the state ATAX side, I'll show you I think there's the past 2.5 years, maybe 3 years on the sheet. This is the money that comes from the state quarterly. So, just a little bit of explanation, Kelly being new, as a business, when you, a lodging component, you pay a percentage to the local, to the county, but you also pay 2% to the state of South Carolina. Every quarter, we get back a portion of those dollars from the state, and we have to keep the local and the state in two separate accounts and follow the state statutes as how we spend those dollars. Internally, as a staff, we have traditionally used the state money to operate the tourism side of our department. It pays for the staff of Visit Oconee. When we have extra dollars in there, we'll roll that out and use it for projects. You'll see on the screen, I've got at the November meeting, we used $200,000 out of that to go towards a project from the docks on the lake. So anytime there's an excess money in there, we'll pull that over and use it for projects as well. So in the state ATAX side, you have a total available right now of $259,967. Any questions on the treasurer's report? Hearing none, we'll start in with the recommendations for this grant cycle. We have 13 total applications this time. There was $93,044 in total requests. After I reviewed them and looked at all the tourism percentages, I determined that we had an eligible dollar amount of $91,749, and we're recommending utilizing up to $70,000. We don't have to use all those dollars, I was asked before the meeting, but certainly it's there and available, and as a staff, we feel like that's not gonna hurt us internally for the things that we use ATAX for. That was also a question asked of me. So just to be transparent and share that. So we have up to $70,000 available. We will go through each of these grants. If there's a question, I won't present the grants again, but I'll just go to each slide. If there's a question, I'll try to answer it. If not, we'll get to the Excel sheet, and then it'll you will start deliberating how you want to recommend those dollars. All right, so we'll start. These are in alphabetical order. First one is City of Seneca. Any questions on this grant? I will share with you, we had a submittal after the fact. The second page of their application was actually a recopy of their half marathon application. It was just a mistake. So they sent in an updated copy of that, as well as the updated advertising. So we do have all that in hand. There was a question asked of me this morning. On the second page of that application, there's a handwritten note that says that some data was furnished separately. There is no additional data for this application. That was for the half marathon as well. So we have the data on their application, the attendance from last year. We have their total budget, and then we have the percentage of impact that we utilize for our events, making them eligible for the $9,600 they're asking for. Any questions on that grant? Yes, sir.
Phil, I got a question, not specific to that grant, but in preparation for our meeting today, I went through and read all the applications again, made some notes. And then I looked back at the March of 24 list. And what I was looking for was some pattern methodology or guide, or whatever you wanna call it. And I noticed it went from 16 to the approval on the Eagles Nest Art Center last year was 16% of what they asked for. And then the Upstate Heritage Quilt Trail was 88%, and then there was all other percentages between that. And, I guess I'm asking for some advice, guidance. How have y'all arrived at the grant in the past?
First of all, I don't get a vote.
Hmm?
I said, first of all, I don't get a vote.
Yeah, okay.
My guidance to the commission would be that you kind of view these grants and applications based on their impact of tourism. So if you look at one grant over another and you have, let's say you have 30,000 people coming to this event and you have 1,500 coming to this event, that might be the disparage in the percentage of funding that's given. Each commission is a little bit different. Each deliberation is a little bit different. You know, each cycle is a little bit different. So as y'all talk through them, that's something that you as a commission have to kind of talk through and say, well, I think this one should get a little more, or I think this one should get a little less. And then we kind of talk through and put those numbers on paper. And I think once you see the process one time at the end of this meeting, you'll feel a little better about it, because you do have a chance to communicate with each other and talk through it. But I don't think there's a magic answer. But my recommendation would be that you lean towards those things that have a bigger tourism impact, because that's where the dollars are coming from.
Well, that's sort of contrary to what I looked at on the percentages, if you're looking strictly at that.
Yeah, I can also add a little to that, in the past, we look at what we've given them in the past, what they were qualified for, all of that, and in the specific example of the Eagles Nest, I believe that was the first year they ever applied, and it was the first year we ever gave any money to them. So I think, and I can't go back to our exact notes or thoughts for that, but I do think as a new application, there's a little bit of a higher bar for us to give a full approval to or a large approval to, just until we see how the money's allocated or spent and how it's impacting the community. And then we make adjustments from there on that as well. And then also, every cycle is a lot different, and this one is actually one of the better ones that I've been a part of, where the amount that's requested is closer to the amount that we're able to give out. There are a lot of times where the amount requested is 130,000 and we're able to give out 50. And so we have to make, cuts a lot more frequently, or larger cuts than we'll likely have to do today as well.
With the new, sorry to add in, but with the new sort of direction plan, master plan for Visit Oconee being to also focus on sort of quality of life for locals as well as tourism.
Correct.
Do we see that playing into some of the calculations from your perspective at all, as far as a general suggestion or guidance?
My opinion in that is that every dollar we give to any of these agencies also positively impacts us locals. So I don't think that I would have one way or the other on that. That just tells, our strategic plan kind of changes a little bit of our internal strategies, but in terms of this, every dollar we give out is gonna impact positively for locals as well. So I'm gonna help answer your question.
Perfect.
Yes, ma'am?
Historically, has the commission ever awarded 100% of what has been requested, and have they ever just completely none, zero?
We have had, I think, only one cycle that I can remember where we had more available funds than eligible product. And I think that was probably the shortest meeting we had, because the committee just voted to give 100% of everything because we had the available money.
Okay.
I do not recall a time where if we recommended giving $70,000 that we didn't recommend $70,000.
By grant application, has there ever been a zero? We requested X.
Yes, there has. It's rare, and typically there's a reason for it. But most of the time, traditionally, the commission has pretty much tried to help as many people as possible with higher impacts going to the higher tourism
Right.
impact projects.
Okay,
The Quilt Trail is actually one of the most unique ones, because the Quilt Trail gets a lot of funding, but it's because their paperwork and their response, and, I mean, it's just good. Like, they respond really well.
Are you saying that because Martha's in the room?
Well, and the fact that they're at the meeting, I mean, in all reality,
That's impressive when they show up.
yeah, I mean, the
It
Quilt
really
Trail
is.
is like maybe the most requested or the coolest consistent application that we get, because of, one, the fact that they're here every time, but also the fact that their paperwork is
Perfect.
exactly, yeah.
And usually the amount that they're requesting is very minimal, so it's not
And it's reasonable.
going to impact from another thing, so it's usually makes it a little easier to.
and I'm
Fun
not
as well.
picking on anyone, I'm just
Sure.
asking in general, so.
Listen,
Yeah,
when
I-
we have this much turnover, I expected us to, we're gonna have to walk through this a little bit.
No, those are good questions.
Yeah, and I
great.
will
Really.
piggyback off of what Phil said. I think after you guys see how we kind of done it in the past, and I'll try to take the lead and walk you through how we've done it in the past. I think you guys will be fairly comfortable with it.
Thank
One
you.
last question, how do you arrive at your recommendation, like 70,000?
I look at the treasurer's report, and I look at what we have in a rainy day fund, if you will.
Okay.
And I make sure that we've got enough in there to operate in case something happens we don't expect. And then based on that, I come up with that number. 70 is the highest we've ever done. Alex has been on here a while, Riley's been on here a while. There were cycles where we've had 20,000, prior to us getting a lot of ATAX money in the coffers. So, as we grow our rainy day fund and our ability, 1.1 is almost a year's worth of collections and basically a year's worth of operations when you look at the supplemental ATAX funds, the grant cycle, as well as our projects. So by having a year's worth in the rainy day fund, that's kind of what I look at and determine that number.
What's left over?
I'm sorry?
What's left over after the rainy day fund?
Yeah, and, you know, and I wouldn't make a huge jump unless something major happened, but typically you'll see increments of $10,000 either up or down based on kind of where we are. Because I want to provide as much as we can to the applicants as well.
How much cushion do you give between that 70,000 and the rainy day fund?
This one's probably $25,000.
Gotcha.
And each month's different.
Right.
You know, next month's ATAX money, when I compare it over previous years, it could be up 3 or 4%, down 3%. I really don't get into the exact dollar of that. I just kind of make sure we've got enough for the next 12 months in case something bad were to happen. So that we don't have to make a really quick decision that would impact staff, really. Because we now have 5 staff members paid by ATAX. And so, we want to make sure we got those at least for a time to make some decisions in operations. Does that help?
Yes, great, yes.
Any other general questions? All right, if not, I'll go back to the City of Seneca's grant. Any questions specifically for that? Okay. The next one is Discover Upcountry. Any questions specifically for Discover Upcountry?
I've got a couple, I was reading through some of the pamphlets, and through the application, and it said it, will also help with, like, Apple Festival, Bigfoot Festival, the, Fourth of July celebration, but when I was reading through there, I didn't see anything specifically in those advertisements. Now, there may be something in Southern Living that I didn't see because we didn't get that, but, did they advertise specifically for these events?
Yeah, I don't have a say in what's on their specific ad.
Mhm.
But for example, when Discover Upcountry runs an ad in a Southern Living magazine and they typically do it by season, so they might be doing, for the fall, they may feature the Apple Festival and Oktoberfest in that ad. It's not something that we kind of know or are a part of unless we're teaming up with them and helping them pay for the ad, which we can do sometimes through Visit Oconee. If we do help and be a part of that ad, then there'll be more Oconee stuff shown in the ad than the other 6 counties or 3 counties. but it just, I don't have a say on what they advertise, but they're pretty consistent in, they do a lot of advertising, and so they're kind of all over those counties hitting things.
Well, that's what I saw, and, I was seeing more of a blanket of, cause it was all counties, but I didn't see what specifically they were doing for Oconee County, and if they're applying for a grant from us, what are we getting in return is kind of my thought process on that.
Yeah, and a lot of that focus, when you look at the individual side, you gotta look at the digital side. Because a lot of that money goes to the digital side, and whether it's, targeted ads to people in the area, high hitting, as we get close to one of these festivals, they may have a niche ad that goes and targets you. But yeah, it is generic in terms, but they'll have pictures of Oconee spread all throughout their ad campaigns.
I think one other point, and Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, but they ask all the other 6 counties for grants as well, correct?
They do.
And they get grants from those counties as well, so it's not just Oconee County.
No, I
funding it.
understand, that's, so what I'm saying, so what are we getting, what's our bang for the buck? Is kind of my idea, my thought process behind it. And I think that's why we change personnel through the council, and there's a limit over time.
Sure.
Or a term limit for that, is because you want fresh ideas.
Sure, absolutely.
And I was just, that's where I'm at on that.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that some of these platforms, that they advertise in, we don't specifically advertise in. So, like, we can't afford to do Southern Living or Georgia Magazine, some of the bigger ones. So this money goes to Discover Upcountry, and they'll do a blanket for all 6 counties that covers those regional, publications in there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Ms. Carl had something. You wanna add something?
I was just gonna add, I think for smaller organizations, like when I was running the Quilt Trail, is they were very supportive in, doing, social media boosts for us and other kinds of, advertisements. If we were running a special program or something like that, they'd list it like on their calendar and other things. So there may be more of that, besides just kind of the formal advertising, but it's more support to the individual.
And that's kind of what I was asking, is that kind of thing. So,
Their database of consumers is much larger than our Oconee County database too. So anything they push out like that goes to a much bigger audience than what we typically push out to.
gotcha.
Any other questions? Those are good questions. Okay. Next one is Eagles Nest Art Center. Any specific questions for Eagles Nest Art Center?
Hey, Phil, just to be clear, this is our second year requesting, all right?
This is their third year.
Third year, or third cycle.
23, 24, and 25. And they're growing in their number of shows each year as they kind of get their feet under them, and, we have added the brown signs, along the roadway too, to pinpoint, that as a destination now, which is helpful, off of 11 and 130, to help folks get to that location.
What has been their increase in visitors since they started receiving this grant? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know over the past 2 years. I'd have to pull each grant to look at that.
'Cause it looks like they're the smallest impact of all of the organizations on the list. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, they're in that 30% range, but we have quite a few in the 30% range that either and some people don't have the means to track that. They don't have the
Right.
volunteers to
Staff,
physically
yeah.
track that, and that's kind of why we started doing the 30% number.
Right.
It's not them against them, but without the true data, that gives us a general starting point.
Right, okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Next is Lake and Mountain Quilters Guild. This is it's actually more than their second year, but they took a break during the pandemic, so you're not seeing previous years on there. They're eligible for the entire amount they asked for. next one is Oconee Military Museum. This is a specific ask for an ad for the SC Living magazine. If no questions, we'll go South Carolina Apple Festival, Westminster. Hearing none. South Carolina Bigfoot Festival, also in Westminster. Next is the Farm Center, facility improvements. Next is the Foothills Farmstead to complete their septic for the public restroom component. Next is Upstate Heritage Quilt Trail. All right, no questions. We've got Walhalla Performing Arts Center. No question. We've got the Westminster Music Center. Musical Maine.
Or when they were here, they were explaining that they do not have the same facilities, or could you kind of recap the details?
They used to have a storefront, and they would do, in addition to the Main Street stuff, they also had an indoor component that they did shows and stuff on. They don't have that anymore. This, and I wasn't aware until they spoke last time, that they only have 2 concerts this coming year instead of 4. Because they've traditionally done 4, so they're cutting down to 2. It doesn't change the percentages, you know, but as we talk through the impacts, you know, only 2 events versus 4 would make a difference in my mind in terms of if I was looking at where to kind of prioritize some money. And last but not least, Wild Hearts Equine Center. All right, so you also have in front of you this sheet. And traditionally, and I'll let the chairman kind of start the process, but traditionally, each chair has been different. So if, you know, Alex, if you want to kind of go through and give us a starting point and then go from there, or if you want to open it up each grant, I'll leave that completely up to you. But as y'all make your recommendations, I'll fill in this sheet so it's a running total and you can see it. I would advise you, because I'll say this as they're in alphabetical order, so don't get to the bottom and say like, oh, we only got $2,000. Go ahead and give everybody what you know, make those recommendations, and if we get to the end and you're 80, then let's go back and make those adjustments.
Yeah, and so what I was gonna say is the way that we've done it in the past, that I've always been a part of it, is we'll go down and just put in a dollar amount for all of them right off the bat, and then we see what that total comes to. And then we can discuss where we wanna spend less, spend more, and try to hit that $70,000 mark, in the easiest way possible. So the way that I approached this one, was I looked at what we've been able to provide for each of them in the past. And like I said earlier, luckily on this cycle, we're fairly close to the amount that we're able to give, is close to the amount that's being requested. So I kind of went to the high end of what we've been able to give them in the past, and even exceeded that on quite a few of them, based on the amount that they've requested, the amount that they're eligible for, and what we've given them in the past. And even with those, there is still room to move up, just on the numbers that I put together. And that is not to say that we can't take away from somebody else and move them up even further. But if you guys are okay with it, I'll run through what I wrote down, what I'm kind of suggesting, and then we can talk through each one individually, after that. is.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So Phil, for, the first one, City of Seneca, I had $8,000 for that one. Discover Upcountry, 8,000. Eagles Nest, 4,000. The Lake and Mountain Quilters Guild, 1,550. Oconee Military Museum, 2,000. South Carolina Apple Festival, 5,000. South Carolina Bigfoot Festival, 4,000. Farm Center, 8,000. Foothills Farmstead, 3,000. Upstate Heritage Quilt Trail, 775. Walhalla Performing Arts Center, 10,000. Westminster Music Center, 6,000. And the Wild Hearts Equine Therapeutic Center at 7,000. And a little bit on my thought process of those, all of those are the high end of what we've been able to provide for them in the past. And then, some of them, like the Lake and Mountain Quilters Guild, last time we were able to offer them $2,000, and they're only requesting $1,550. And they are eligible for $5,915, so they're eligible for far more than they're asking for. So like in that thought process, fully funded. So that's kind of where my head is on most of these. Taking a balance of what we've been able to do in the past, what they're requesting, what they're actually eligible for. And that's where I landed with those numbers. And it still gives us an opportunity to increase on any given one without reducing, but I'm open to reducing any of those if we want to increase some others more.
I would love to, for the farm center, consider fully funding that grant. So bumping it $2,000 to $10,000.
Yeah, and to me, on my calculations, I honestly wouldn't see a problem with that because they are eligible for 17,000 and they're only requesting 10. So I tried to take that into consideration with mine. But the 8,000 that I suggested for that was the max that we've ever given them. So like I said, I was putting it on the high end already of what we've been able to provide everybody in the past as well.
Any opposition to moving that to 10?
It just looked good when, one thing I did is I looked at Phil's recommendation, 70,000. And the total approved was 91,475, that comes out to 76.5%. That's pretty close to your list right here.
Right. Yeah, and I didn't take that exact calculation, or that measure, but, as far as, what we've been able to do in the past and what they're requesting versus what they're eligible for, I tried to weigh both those.
That's pretty close. Good start. Late in.
I'll make a comment on that, if I remember, and help me guys remember, the Music on Main, the city cut the funding out to that group.
That's correct.
Correct.
So they're going to 4 concerts to 2, and they said the city was in full support of them, like blocking the streets off and things like that, help cleaning up, and if I remember correctly, but they were not getting outside funding from the city for that. So I don't know if we want to take that in consideration of what we're giving to them as well.
And for my thought process on that, I put it at the high end of what we've done in the past, even considering that they've cut their shows in half. So that was just my thought process on that, and I'm not trying to sway anyone else's thought on that at all, but that's where I was coming from on it. But I'm open to doing anything that anyone would like to do on that.
Is there a reason that on the Discover Upcountry, that's the largest number impact, and we're not giving as much as proportionately to others? Not that that's wrong or right, but I'm just curious what your thought process is, because they have the other 5 counties also supporting them.
That also, and on the slide previously, it showed what their total budget was, but it didn't show what their eligible amount for it was, so that was the only one I have blank. So their total marketing budget is $368,500. I don't know what that calculates to.
Yeah, it's hard to put a percentage on them because 100% of what they do is to the tourist.
Right,
But it's
exactly,
hard to say they're eligible for $368,000.
exactly.
Discover Upcountry also gets a percentage of the state accommodations tax. So when someone pays into the state aid tax fund, the portion that comes back to Oconee, there's a little bit taken out of that that goes to Discover Upcountry, as well as Lake Hartwell Country, who represent us regionally. So they are also getting some state funds as part of that 368.5 already. So that kind of might play into those decisions too.
Okay.
And also funding from the other 5 counties as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and the tracking, the way that they do it is very generic, so.
So we don't really know for sure what the
I
impact.
can guarantee you that the number is fake. But it's real, but it's fake, like, because it's based on the number of readers of those magazines that come to this area. But it doesn't mean they came here because of the ad that Discover Upcountry.
One of the
Okay.
hardest things for us to do on our end is a conversion metric on an ad, because there's no money associated with me. Alex, running a business, he can put a conversion metric on. If I run an ad in this particular place, I set up a unique URL or a unique way for them to get back to me, I can track that. For us doing generic advertising, it's very hard to do a conversion metric to that. And so it's hard to kind of really tie down exactly, to Trey's point, what is the benefit of those generic ads?
Now,
And that's through the entire advertising world.
Okay.
we haven't done it, the number that I'm curious about is, they can break down their readership into like what their demographics are, and then we could base that off of the demographic that we see coming into this area. Or even a demographic that we want to come into this area, and then base the value off of that.
We just haven't done that in the past.
And I mean, it's so much work for, these guys have been, Tim's been doing this since what, the mid-90s?
Yeah.
And so it's also a legacy relationship that's happened.
And it's a good relationship overall?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
yeah, Tim went to school at Clemson, he worked here in Oconee County for years before.
And he does come to almost all the meetings. He was here
Yes,
last
he
week
was.
as well.
Okay.
And, yeah, he shows up and
Okay. I mean, I was
he's here
leaning
for us.
more towards why not give them more, but under hearing what you're saying, it sounds like,
Yeah, eight
It
is a
would-
very, I mean, it would be the number that I would choose.
Yeah.
okay,
That's what I had.
okay, thank you.
From a percentage standpoint, I guess we still have
We still, yeah,
$675. The Foothills Farmstead, what's the follow-up regarding the, request that we made in the November meeting?
They were able to close out one of those 2 grants, and the other one is ongoing.
But there has been progress attached to that. And this would be the public restrooms that's in the timber frame?
The timber frame, yeah, they had the group to come down and build the timber frame.
Yep.
That was also a separate grant. I don't think it was from us, it was from another group. But the electricity was the last grant that y'all transferred the money for. They have closed that out to us. And this is to get the septic to the timber frame restroom to allow more than porta johns to be on site, to get them to the next level.
I would like to suggest that we fully fund that and just see how that goes.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that too.
Sure.
I agree.
So we can make that one, yeah, 3270.
Yep.
We still do have $405 left over, that we can, obviously we can spend, or we can take some money away from one of the suggestions that I made, if anybody sees a reason to do that, that we can add somewhere else as well.
Give that to Wild Hearts, that would,
Yeah.
Perfect,
Yeah,
yeah.
And then
I would support that.
from a percentage standpoint, maybe the only one below 50% is Eagles Nest, as far as what they were requested.
Agreed, and they were eligible for 11, and requested 8. put 4,000 on there because the max we've ever given them before was 1,500. And I thought stepping that up, more than double, was a fair starting point to see how it goes. But if you're wanting to fund that more, I have no objections to it.
I mean, as far as like, shows versus, I mean, it seems like even Music on Main, we're significantly funding them and we're dropping this and for 20% of the shows.
Yeah, and I agree with that assessment too. The reason why I put Westminster Music Center higher was just because they lost funding. So obviously trying to help them out where we can. But if you're suggesting that we take some from there and spread it to Eagles Nest, I'm open to that as well.
What did we give them in the last two cycles?
Westminster,
No, the Eagles Nest.
1,000 and 1,500.
Okay, and then the time before that.
Same thing, 1,500 and 1,000.
Would y'all consider doing 5,000 to Music on Main? And then $5,405 to Eagles Nest?
I would be fine with that.
Yeah.
That gets both of them in line a little closer to, 50% on both, a little higher on Eagles Nest, but when you're looking at the numbers of what they're eligible for, they're eligible for more and they're doing, more shows as well, so money could have a better impact with that.
Yeah, and it's a more rural community.
One other besides the Eagles Nest you mentioned, which one was that?
Music on Main.
It's the Westminster Music Center,
Taken away from that.
the next to last one.
Up here.
Yes, sir.
One, that's the only two you mentioned?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does that get you to 70,000?
We're 70,000 on the nose right now.
Right on it.
Yep. And I will throw out, just because we do have had some changeover, when I look at, and I'll throw Eagles Nest up there. When I look at this amount eligible right here, 11,250, that's kind of for the whole year. So let's say they come back and ask for more money next cycle, that doesn't change their impact or that project. If 11,250 is their amount for the year, then if you give them 5,000 this time, they won't exceed, I won't let them exceed what they're eligible for the whole year.
Understood.
So I go back and look at each grant whenever we do that to make sure we don't cross over and give somebody more. I just don't wanna get audited and them, really dig into those numbers. So when you look at an amount eligible, you gotta think, well, if they're eligible for this much more, you gotta think that's 2 grant cycles. And we try to also have to balance that as well.
And that's the same for every single one.
That's
of these, yes.
every individual grant. So if you have an entity, the city of Seneca, they ask for 2 different things. So you have to look at those 2 projects as separates. But if you have, an agency or a venue that asks all the time, then there is a number that they can't exceed for the year based on the impact that venue has. And we also look at that to make sure we don't go past that dollar amount.
Good. Anyone have any other suggestions or comments for consideration?
Can you pull up the Farm Center? What were they eligible for? I didn't see
Farm
that.
Center was eligible for 17,160.
And that's for the year. And they're requesting 10,000.
Correct.
Okay. What about the equine? What are they eligible for?
They're eligible for the 9,134.
For the year?
Correct. Well, that's based off of this project that they're working on. Is that
Yeah,
correct, Phil?
So this, let's say they complete this project right here, and they have a separate project that's not even associated with this, that impact could be a little bit different. But their for them, their ATAX is really only the events they do, it's not the weekly therapy sessions.
Right.
So that would come into an impact as well.
Okay.
Yeah. But each different construction component would go to that 38% number. So once they finish this and go to another construction project, that would also have a 38%, because they're, on their end, they're funding the other 62%. When you're ready, the step that we have to go through, because you have a recusal form in front of you. So if you are directly involved with one of these, obviously you can't vote on it. So when we get to those, and I'll just use Riley as an example, Riley works for the city of Seneca, he cannot vote or add input for the city of Seneca. He has a recusal form that he fills out, we put that with the minutes for the meeting. If you are directly connected with any of these, then you need to fill out a recusal form and let us know when we vote on them. And for that purpose, we vote on these individually. So once we get this where you like it as a commission, then Alex will go through and ask for a motion in a second for each grant and the number, and we'll record that into the minutes.
So what constitutes directly,
If you're on the board,
okay, okay, I got you, so I'm not on the board any of these.
Or work for them.
or work for them,
Yeah, I don't receive any money or anything like that. I had just suggested when, the lady with the Equine Hearts last week, I've got a ball team that I wanna go out
Oh,
and
no,
do
no,
a service
no, no.
project, that kind of stuff.
no, it's just that if you are on the board or directly involved with the operation of the,
Okay. I just didn't wanna cross any lines that cause any problems.
All right, any other discussion or changes that anyone would like to make to the numbers suggested? All right, hearing none. Do we have a motion, that the city of Seneca be approved, $8,000?
Motion.
Second.
Is there a motion for Discover Upcountry, South Carolina, to be approved?
hold on one second.
Oh, yes, sure.
So.
Oh, we gotta take a vote. I'm sorry, you're right. Yes,
Discussion and
yes,
vote.
yes. Sorry.
Motion is second, any other discussion,
Right.
and ask for a vote.
I like
Got it.
Alex's rules better.
I'm on a time crunch, here we go. Let's go. Okay, sorry, back to City of Seneca. We had a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Okay, any motion for Discover Upcountry, South Carolina,
So moved.
to be recommended 8,000?
Second.
Sorry, I got ahead of you.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Is there a motion to recommend $5,405 to the Eagle Nest Art Center?
Motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Okay. Is there a motion for the Lake and Mountain Quilters Guild to be approved, $1,550?
Motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Is there a motion for the Oconee Military Museum to receive $2,000?
Motion.
I'll second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? All right, is there a motion for the South Carolina Apple Festival, to receive $5,000 in funding?
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, or any other discussion? All those in favor? Is there a motion that the South Carolina Bigfoot Festival, receive $4,000?
Motion.
I'll second.
Sorry.
Sure. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Is there a motion that the Farm Center, receive $10,000 in funding?
Motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Is there a motion that Foothills Farmstead receive $3,270 in funding? I'll make a motion that we approve
Second,
that.
second.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Is there a motion that the Upstate Heritage Quill Trail receive $775 in funding?
Motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Do we have a motion that the Walhalla Performing Arts Center receive $10,000 in funding?
Motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Is there a motion that the Westminster Music Center receive $5,000 in funding?
Motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? And is there a motion that the Wild Hearts Equine Therapeutic Center receive $7,000 in funding?
Motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
All right, very good, all unanimous votes, appreciate that. In terms of me, staff, I have no additional items for this, commission meeting. The next meeting is May the 1st, here in council chambers at noon. I gave you all at the last meeting an email out, the PRT supplemental budget that you will be voting on at the May meeting. I encourage you to look at that, if you have any questions, by all means ask. You vote on two things in May. One is that supplemental budget, that's usually about $600,000. And then you also vote on the state ATAX dollars funding Visit Oconee. Those things happen in May, and then they go to council during the third and final reading of the county's budget, so that all that's passed and able to proceed. If you have any questions on any of that, by all means, let me know, and I'm happy to share, data and answer questions. Other than that, I have no other things, Mr. Chair.
Anyone-
I'm sorry, one other thing.
Yes.
Because we did have some turnover, this commission has traditionally met at noon. Is that okay moving forward?
Is,
Yep.
I mean, this is the long shot. Empanada Day at Alexander's is on Wednesday. Is there any way to shift to Wednesday?
That's up to the commission.
I only get down the mountain like once a week. I'd love it to be on Empanada Day.
The only thing I have to check on is we do set this schedule at the November meeting of the previous year. So if we move to Wednesday, then that moves everything up or back a day, and I would have to confirm, one, the room's available and there's nothing going on. But that is a commission vote. The time and the date that y'all meet is your vote. So I wanna make sure that, because we had some turnover, make sure this time and date works for everybody.
Just logistically, Wednesday is a little harder for me to make.
I'll work on getting Empanada Day to be changed to.
Okay, sorry about that. Don't mean to interrupt your
No.
Empanada Day.
Dude, I love empanadas.
I'm open to changing just because I have another commitment the first Thursday of every month, but I can switch off, go to one month, you know. But that, I would be open to discussing other times if anybody else was interested, but I'm also okay staying as is if needed.
If it was a different time during the day, would the,
Yeah, Thursday would be fine if it was a little earlier, a little later.
That would be better.
I can do earlier, not later.
Early's good with me.
earlier is fine with me as well.
I can roll with whatever.
What would work best for your schedule,
Like
time-wise?
10:30, 11,
What,
10,
Phil, would 10 work?
10.
10 work for
Yeah, I
your
don't have
schedule?
any problem changing to 10. I'll just confirm with her. Now, Mr. Retirement guy over here might not be waking up by then. I see him laughing.
How about 6:30?
I'm usually in the office by 7, but not 6:30.
It doesn't matter, they want to do it.
6:30.
10 would be
Is
good.
10 o'clock
Yep.
okay with everybody?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
So I will confirm with the council clerk that we can make that move.
Do we need to take a vote on that, or?
You would, yeah, I'll need y'all to make a vote on that as long as everybody's in agreement.
I'll make a motion that we move to 10 o'clock on Thursdays,
The same dates.
The
just
same
moves from
dates.
noon to 10 a.m.
at 10 a.m. instead of noon. Need a second.
Second.
Any other discussion about the times? All those in favor of changing?
Vote is unanimous. I will get with the clerk of council, make sure that's not an issue. If it's not, we'll send a new classified ad to the Journal, let them know of that change, and I'll let you all know. And then starting May 1st, that'll be a 10 a.m. meeting.
Empanadas for everybody.
Sounds great.
Yeah, wrong day still.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see
Sorry
what I
about
can
that,
do to, see if we can get that changed.
All right, any other discussion before adjourning? All right, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
You gotta tap it.